Yeah, I think you've had to be pretty creative and, set up a schedule, get them on a routine. I think, all kids like to be on some sort of routine. So, I think planning and showing them a schedule that we did, whether it was coming back and doing the 15 practices this fall to what we're going to do during the voluntary lift time to what we were going to do for the ramp up to preseason to the season. And, you'd be creative and you had to have some fun with them too. These kids, they never signed up for a winter season before. So in the same sense too, I want to take care of my players. We're going to play 2 seasons in 10 months, and taking care of their bodies, not only physically but mentally. We got to do a good job. There's no template. I can't open my desk drawer and say, all right, well, how did this team do this, last winter to play football and then come back in the fall? So from that standpoint, you got to keep it fresh, and you hope you put a good plan together. And, we'll see this season.
How is it to finally get that first game? There's light at the end of the tunnel. I mean, you've been in this job for over a year, haven't played a game, but just to finally have that first game, nowadays.
Well, it's been 15 months since we've been in a routine of preparing for an opponent, in season. So, when you're leaving, going home late last night and, you feel like you're in that routine you were 15 months ago. So to get back into that, I think is a great feeling for coaches. It's been an odd last 15 months in dealing with this, but to get back into a playing routine, to get back into a Tuesday practice, which we had today, knowing, we get an extra day this week of practice, next week we lose a day. So just getting into that type of routine, I think has helped. I think it's a breath of fresh air. It's what we're used to. We're used to working. We're used to working with our kids. So for me, I'm just excited that, we get to kick off here coming in a few days.
What have been like some of the key components that you've been having to focus on this week in practice? What have you been focusing on in the game plan?
I think just, we're going to a rough arena where it's going to be loud. So probably the number one thing is focus, road focus. I'm concerned that I got a lot of young guys on this football team. I have young guys that have never been on an airplane. I have young guys that have never been on a road trip. So, going in and trying to teach them, what road focus is, what do we need to do to prepare to play a football game on Sunday. That's been, first and foremost. And then I think you got to play smart and play safe and keep it clean. And what I mean by clean is, try to eliminate any and all pre-snap penalties, substitution errors, special teams, making sure there's 11 on the field. And we got to do this when it's going to be chaos because it's going to be loud. So we tried to put our players in those type of situations, the past week, where we tried to create a little chaos in practice. And, even for our coaches, this would be the first time as a staff we coach together in a football game. So trying to create chaos for them too. And then the final piece is we got to stay together. This football team, I want to see how they handle the highs and lows of a college football game. And I was at in a program where we won a lot of football games, and it wasn't easy winning those football games. You can look at the records and say, wow, they won a lot of football games. But those games came down to the third and fourth quarter, and the teams that stayed together, the teams that had a great locker room, those were the teams that walked off that field, with victory. So those are things I'm excited to see how our players react. I don't know how they'll react, but those are things we talk about daily, and I'm excited to see how they do react.
Coach, how do you plan your quarterback situation? Is it close? How do you plan to use Craig Crafton late this weekend?
I believe practice is one thing, but until you're in a game situation and bullets are flying and there's chaos left and to the right, that, you find out who can handle that. So we're going into this game that we're going to utilize both those quarterbacks, and we're going to see which one in those situations handle it. I believe both of them can. I really do. I think they both bring different attributes, to our offense. but the one that can go in there and lead and get us first downs and move the football and get the ball into the end zone. I think that'll take its course as we go through the season. But as we prepare, I'm preparing to play both of those young men.
Could there be a scenario where they're both on the field at the same time?
We got different personnel groupings, but when you're going in a game like this, you got to go in, ready for everything. And the one thing Mark has, the exciting thing Mark has done is even in the fall, he volunteered. He's like, Coach, can I go through special team drills? Because he sees himself not only as a quarterback, and he wants to win the starting quarterback position, but he sees himself as even a football player. One that can do many things. He loves the guy down there in New Orleans that does a lot of different things for the Saints. And, I think Mark, as he matures, first and foremost, his focus is on being a quarterback. But, for him to say, hey, I want to go down on kickoff and I want to be on punt, and all those things get me excited because, he thinks team first.
Coach, one of the areas that looks like you have depth is tailback. And I saw the depth chart today where it was London, Pearson, 1. Is that an area where you feel you might be the most deepest or on your team?
I believe that. The one thing London did this fall was his consistency. He was the one back that, did not, played probably every scrimmage, was able to be at every practice, and I think he earned that. So, I'm excited to see London play. I know he hasn't had many opportunities, maybe in the past. So he will get that opportunity. And then, with Christian Turner, when you turn on the film 2 years ago, Christian at least has playing experience over at the Fargo Dome, has a lot of playing experience, and I think they offer different skill sets. And then, we have a young man, Jalil McLaughlin, who can also offer a lot to our offense.
Coach, you obviously talk a lot about brotherhood and bringing this team together, and that being one of the first things you want to accomplish. Griffin shared with us that you had a quiz for all the position groups on how well they know their teammates. Can you kind of touch on the thought process behind that, and maybe be willing to share with us which position groups did the best?
Yeah, I can do that. So there's good little prizes, but that was something I learned off Coach Tressel years ago. You want it to be a brotherhood, and the first thing you got to know as you're walking to practice, every day you have an opportunity as you're walking to the indoor, you're walking to practice, to get to know somebody, get to know where they're from, what high school they went to, what are they studying. So it was a challenge for our kids to reach out of your comfort zone and just talk to the guys you hang out with that are off the field, or maybe the position group you're with, and get to know the people that you are around. And I follow that up to, that was an emphasis even at, Iowa State or at Cincinnati. It was that locker room that, got you through those tough times. It's that locker room that'll get you those tough wins. And so we just wanted our kids, the brotherhood is something that I saw firsthand when Coach Tressel was here winning championships. I saw it firsthand in the building stages with Matt Campbell at Iowa State, and I was able to experience that brotherhood at the University of Cincinnati. And so, we're trying to get that. We're not where we need to be, but I think the emphasis of getting to know the players, I think our kids understand that. As it comes out, everyone would think that the specialists would have won, but they didn't. Our quarterbacks were the best group. I joke with the defense, they were at the tail end on every position group, followed by the quarterbacks, probably the specialists, and the tight ends were the tops. But those are things, and not only knowing your players, but what we're trying to build here. So they got bonus points with, what are our core fundamentals, what are our core principles, what are our core values. So we put a lot of different things on that test because, again, every day we're teaching. We are young. When I say young, if you look at our roster, I can look at defensively and see 27 freshmen, redshirt freshmen that are scholarship football players. So it's given us an opportunity to build something that, we want to create something special here.
Since Matt and Luke are kind of done, have you talked to them? Have you kind of picked their brains a little bit, being a first-time have they offered you some advice?
Luke, I probably talk to a lot more. I probably talk to Luke if, not every day, every other day, or, we'll touch base. And, he just, his one word of advice just going through a season, not even, my first season, but just, that, the kids will adapt. You got to be tougher on your coaches. Coaches tend to, struggle with change or adapting to situations because every day you got to be ready, whether it's changing your roster, changing your depth chart, just with, we get tested 3 days a week. So, I took that strongly knowing they went through a season like that. So, I'm coaching my coaches to be able to handle anything that's thrown at us, and we can't show any kinks in our armor. Our kids will be able to notice. So, but other than that, we might talk about practice schedules or preparation going into the game. And everyone preparation, we probably do the same at Cincinnati that they did at Iowa State. I think everyone's pretty much, on the same page there as you get into game week.
What's it like for you? Is it a bit surreal? I mean, you grew up here. You were here under Coach Russell. What do you think your emotions will be like when you run on that field Sunday? Not only coaching Youngstown State, they didn't give you a cupcake to start. You got to play North Dakota State.
Yeah, I look at that. I think we got 1-3-5. That sticks in my mind the first 3 games. So I haven't had much thought of what that game day will be like just because there's so much preparation going in each day. I'm sure it will hit me, maybe on Saturday night or maybe when you walk into the stadium. But I just know, how proud I am. We talk about, we have a leadership council. We talk about representing. We had that talk yesterday in our meeting with our older players, and we got some young players. And what does represent mean? And to be able to represent this valley, represent who we stand for, the toughness, the blue collar, the championship teams, and to be able to be the representative of that person and be able to serve as the head coach. I mean, it is surreal. I'm sure it'll be emotional, but I'm just grateful that I get the opportunity to do that.
Coach, there's not a lot of film on their quarterback, but you know a little bit about him, I guess, from Iowa State, some other areas. How do you kind of prepare for someone who you haven't seen a lot?
I feel their offense, they're going to find out what their quarterback can do, and their offense will roll with what their quarterback can do. Knowing Zeb just for the year I was there, and Joe Schaefer, our defense coordinator, was there 2 years, with Zeb is, you got a competitor, a fierce competitor that grew up, his dad's a high school head coach that can zing the ball. He's got a strong arm. We know that. But it's going to be based, they've won. One thing about North Dakota State, they're probably not changing too much because they've had so much great success with what they've had. And I think Zeb will fit perfectly. I was able to see last year against Youngstown State, he got into the game here at Stanball Stadium on film, and first play he threw was he threw a rope right to 87, their great tight end, right down the middle of the field. So he has all the tools to be a great quarterback. I think he's a leader. Like I said, the things you look for: leadership, competitiveness, strong arm. And, I have all the respect for Zeb.
With that being said, they don't have any film on you guys, so there's something to go on. And Coach Hack said that, a couple weeks ago that he's going to do some background work on coordinators and experts. So is that kind of an advantage because it's sight unseen?
Although they get to practice against each other, and I think Matt said it best when he said, we get to go against probably one of the best defenses in the country and one of the best offenses in the country each and every day. So they'll be prepared for, whatever formations. We're at that point in our program where, when I hired coordinators, I said, I don't need schemes. We got to evaluate the players we have, and then we got to find out what plays we're we're going to put in that they can be successful at, and then we'll find out what formations, we're going to run those plays out of. So we're still in that process. So I wish we're going to go into a game, we're going to keep it simple. I can, say that publicly that, we want to go in this game and we want to be clean. We want to be able to line up and we want to be able to execute. So, those are the things that I'm going to evaluate after this football game.
With it being your first year as head coach, what's probably been the toughest thing for you to do, like teaching these guys? Like, what's been the most difficult thing that you've had to deal with?
Probably the social distancing. There's things that you wish you could do in a normal year, whether it's, bringing the seniors over to the house for a cookout or, taking the team bowling. It's those things that you do off the field. Like we've been able to do everything on the field as normal. Team meetings have been different just because we had to find large space, so it's not as, condensed and feel at home in those team meetings. But probably the things off the field, because again, I think that's where you grow that brotherhood when you care about players, not only what they do on the field and in your meetings, but when you can get them away from the football field and do activities with them, whether it's paintball, coming out to the lake, coming over your house for dinner. Those are the things in your first year you wish you had, and we haven't had those opportunities to do that. But I know when we get through this, that those will be the things that will be incorporated. That they are our family, and when you're with family, you want them to be in an environment away from this football facility.
So you talked a little bit about the youth on the defense, and one of the young guys is a Warren player named Troy Jake.
Yeah.
Troy a little bit, and can you touch on him? And also on the offensive side, you get another Warren kid and Jacob Coates, who are the starting spot.
Yeah.
Can you briefly touch guys and what they've done to kind of earn those roles?
They did. Troy's done a great job. We've been on Troy just to get bigger, eat more and put some weight on, and he really has, and he's had a great preseason. So he's one that I'm excited to see, and he's going to have a great challenge. They got some great receivers at North Dakota State, so Troy's going to be challenged there, but I'm excited to see how he responds to that. Troy has great skill set. He has the length that you're looking for in a corner. We just, as all young guys, we got to get them bigger and stronger, and we got to keep feeding them. So I think you'll see that. I think you'll see him develop over years once we get to a true off season where we can focus strictly on the weight room. And Jake's just fun. Jake will have the opportunity offensively. We all know what he can do on punt returns, and I think he's 17 yards short of breaking that record on punt returns, but he's really focused in on his route running and catching the football, and I see that, and he's just consistent. I mean, if I look out on at our wide receivers, the one consistency, he's there each and every day. Some guys might get this little soft tissue damage or whatever, and Jake is he's a blue collar as it comes, and I'm excited what he can do, not only as a return guy, but what he can do offensively to help our offense score touchdowns and get first downs.